Variables. Let us talk about variables. A variable is an entity. Variable एक ऐसी चीज है जिसकी वैल्यू चेंज हो सकती है. Something whose value can change. Now x is a variable for me and its value currently is 10. How do I assign a value to a variable? By using an equal sign. X equal to 10 is a variable for me. I just mentioned a variable is something whose value can change. तो initially पहले मैंने इसकी वैल्यू 10 रखी, अब मैं उसकी वैल्यू चेंज करके 20 रख रहा हूँ. इट्स वैल्यू हैज चेंज्ड. आई कैन अगेन चेंज इट्स वैल्यू. इसकी वैल्यू फिर से मैं चेंज कर सकता हूँ एंड मेक इट 30. Okay. Now, how do I verify what is the value of x? By simply doing a print statement. प्रिंट कमांड डाल के हम उसकी वैल्यू चेक कर सकते हैं. तो चलिए रन करके देखते हैं इसे. देखा, द वैल्यू इज 30. अब इसको लेट मी कमेंट दिस आउट. इस लाइन को कमेंट करते हैं और फिर चला के देखते हैं. एंड द एक्सपेक्टेड आउटपुट शुड बी 20. बिकॉज आई कमेंटेड दिस आउट, ये इसलिए नहीं रन होगा. और पहले ये प्रोग्राम जब चलेगा तो x को 10 वैल्यू असाइन होगी, देन इट विल बी असाइंड अ वैल्यू ऑफ 20. तो फाइनली प्रिंट जब करेंगे x को तो वो लास्ट वैल्यू जो x की होगी जो कि 20 होगी वो प्रिंट करेगा. तो एक ये कंसेप्ट हो गया वेरिएबल का. अब वेरिएबल का नाम हमने अभी x लिया था. दिस इज वन वेरिएबल. आई कैन सिमिलरली हैव अनदर वेरिएबल को हम दे सकते हैं 20. राइट. तो ये दो डिफरेंट वेरिएबल्स हैं और फिर हम बाद में जाके इन पे ऑपरेशन कर सकते हैं, पर हम उस पर थोड़ी देर में आएंगे. राइट. ये हो गया x. तो अब मैं आई कैन डू प्रिंट x और इसके साथ कर सकता हूँ प्रिंट y. तो इट शुड प्रिंट पहली लाइन में 10 एंड देन सब्सिक्वेंटली 20. ये आ गया. सिमिलरली एक दूसरा कंसेप्ट ये है कि x जो है एक वेरिएबल है और कैपिटल X एक टोटली डिफरेंट वेरिएबल है. तो x छोटा that is lowercase is different variable and capital X with the uppercase is a different variable. So to validate this we can do this and likewise ऐसे इसको भी कर सकते हैं. चलिए इसको क्विकली मैं चेंज कर देता हूँ वैल्यू को जिससे कि आपको कोई कंफ्यूजन ना छूटे इसमें. तो दिस शुड प्रिंट 10 and 100. Similarly, चलिए एक और one more concept we learn here is what did I assign x. x मेरा एक वेरिएबल था, उसको I had assigned it to number. Now this is what a number, right? It is a, and what type of number did I assign? An integer. What is an integer, right? So let me quickly share a picture with you so that you understand what is an integer. So this is a picture of a number scale. This is a number scale where you see numbers on both sides of 0. On the right side of 0 are positive integers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the negative side of 0 are negative integers. 0 is neutral, that is neither positive nor negative, but it is an integer. इंटीजर की डेफिनेशन ये भी होती है जो कि जिसके अंदर डेसिमल नंबर पार्ट नहीं होता, राइट, वो फ्रैक्शन नहीं होता, दैट इज एन इंटीजर. तो इंटीजर कैन बी 0, इंटीजर कैन बी पॉजिटिव, इंटीजर कैन बी नेगेटिव. That's the definition of integer. Also, an integer is something which does not have a fraction. 2 by 3 is not an integer, it is a fraction. 0.75 is not an integer, it's a fraction. Okay, what is a fraction and how it is considered in Python? It is called a float, but we'll come to that a little later. String. What is the string? Let us take a couple of examples. A letter A or alphabet A by itself is a string. Capital A, letter capital A, alphabet A is a string. The word Sachin is a string. Again, the word Sachin starting with the lower S is also a string. A sentence, three-word sentence, Jack and Jill is also a string. The question is, how do we store a string in a variable? Let us say we have a word, Jack, and we want to store this in a variable. X, putting it X equal to Jack is incorrect and will throw an error which will say name Jack is not defined. The correct way of putting it is defining it is putting the word Jack in quotes. That's the way of assigning it to a variable. This is what we did. X is equal to Jack, running it, throws an error. Jack is not defined. Whereas putting it in quotes is the right way of doing it. It will not throw an error, but it will also not print anything on the output because we are not using a print statement. So if I have to print, I simply need to put X, print X, and it will, on the output, it will print Jack. That's it. Similarly, if I had the sentence Jack and Jill, and I wanted to store it in a variable, the way to do it is X equal to, put this in quotes, and this should work. Print X, Jack and Jill. But if I remove the quotes, then it will throw an error. Jack is not defined. Whatever it encounters first, it tries to look for it and it throws an error. So that's what it is. So anything, any word alphabet that we want to be treated as a string needs to be put in quotes. Okay. We discussed that variables are items whose values can change. So previously we had taken the example of X is equal to 10, X is equal to 100, X is equal to 200, and printing X would give us 200 because that was the final value. Similarly, what we can do is the variable can change its value and we can assign it a string. Let us say Jack and then Jill and then finally John. So what is the concept here is that X is still a variable, but instead of storing integers, it is storing different strings and whose X is value of X is changing. If you look, the final value assigned to X is John, and that is what will get printed, John. And this could be also John is from England. This is also a string, so that is what will get printed. Floats. What is a float? Floating point numbers, I put the definition here, are numbers that have a decimal part. The following are examples of floats: 10.1, 0.23, 133.25, 26.453. By the way, I have just listed positive numbers. Floats can also be negative. For example, any number here, given here, with a negative sign will also be considered a float. A number put in quotes becomes a string. Let us say we have a number 10. This appears to be an integer. It is an integer. And x is equal to 10. Variable x will store an integer with the value 10. But now let's say 10, if we put it in quotes like this, becomes a string. So x is equal to 10 put in quotes is what happens is variable x will store a string, and this is because anything inside a quotes is considered a string. So the takeaway important point इसमें ये है कि अगर एक इंटीजर है उसे अपन ने कोट्स में डाला और वेरिएबल में स्टोर किया तो वेरिएबल के अंदर जो स्टोर होगा वो एक स्ट्रिंग स्टोर होगा. सिमिलरली अगर मैं एक फ्लोट नंबर लूँ जो कि 10 फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ पर 10.1 है, एक फ्लोट है, और अगर मैं उसे x इज इक्वल टू 10.1 करूँ तो वेरिएबल x के अंदर विल स्टोर अ फ्लोट. बट इफ आई टेक 10.1 और उसे कोट्स में डालता हूँ, put it in quotes like this and assign it to a variable, it is a string. Variable x stores a string. Same logic. Anything inside a quotes is considered a string. Let us go through a new case. Let us say we have an integer number 10 and we want to save it to a variable x. We do it by saying x equal to 10. Now let us take another variable y and let us assign x to y. The way we do it is by saying y equal to x, like this. As a result, y will get the value of x. Why is that so? Because, and what is the value of x? What did we say? As a result, y will get the value of x. What is the value of x? Is 10. So the value of y will be 10. Let us quickly validate this in our practical. So x is equal to 10, y equal to x, and let me print the value of y. There you go. Here it is. Y is also 10. If I change the value of x to 20, x will get 20, y will get equal to x, whatever is in x, which is 20, and that is where it will be printed, 20. If I add another variable, let's say z equal to y, and take it to the next level, x will be getting 20, y will be getting equal to x, which is 20, z is equal to y. We know y is already 20, so z will also print as 20. Let us quickly try this out. 30, 30. Similarly, here we had taken, here we had taken the case of x equal to an integer. I could do the same thing, just put a string in it. So x gets a string here, y also gets the value of x, which is Jack. Z also gets the value of y, and so it will print Jack here. Let us further modify it. Let's make a new one. X is equal to 10, y equal to x and print x will give us y, I'm sorry, print y equal to print y. So we should get 10. But here's the small difference. Remember, here I was assigning the value x to y. But if I change this and put this as x, it is no longer going to pass the value of x to y. ये y x की वैल्यू y में नहीं डालेगा. अब ये फर्क ये हो गया है कि एक स्ट्रिंग की तरह ट्रीट किया जाएगा. दिस विल बी ट्रीटेड एज अ स्ट्रिंग. y is equal to x will be treated as a string, and when we print y, instead of printing 10, it will print x. This is a small but interesting and very important difference that many people get confused. So this is what it is, x. So anything in quotes becomes a string, and that is not passing the value. Take another example. Jack. And if I just say x here, x, the what gets stored in x is Jack, and y is getting Jack, and then that's why Jack gets printed. But if I change this and put it as this, then it prints x. It is the value of x is because x has been put in quotes. The value of x is not going to be passed to y, is not going to be stored in y, but only the literal x is going to go get stored in y, and that's why y is going to be printed as x. Now, if I take z and say y, so what will, and if I try to print z, then in this case, think about it as what is y storing? Literal x. And then we are assigning value of y to z. What is the value of y? Is literal x. And that is what gets assigned to z. And that's why when I print z, it is going to put x on the screen. Let's run it here. Okay, this. But if I want it to have this is the difference. If I remove the quotes, C will print Jack. This is the case we just did in practical, but let us quickly again go through it. Let us take a variable x and assign it a value of 200. X is equal to 200. Let us take another variable y and assign it to x. Y is equal to x, like this. What will y store? Right? Of course, as we discussed, y will get the value of x because x is not put in quotes. 200 or x. So in this case, the right answer is it will get stored 200. Integer or a string. So it will store 200 an integer. Right? Another example. X and assign it to Jack. X is equal to Jack, which is a string. Take another variable y and assign it to x. What will y store? It will store whatever is assigned into x, which is Jack, which is a string. What will y store? Jack or x? String Jack or string x? The right answer is it will store string Jack.